All right. This is the Tell Me About It podcast. I'm Stella Graham. This is where I get to talk to people who actually know stuff because it turns out I know very little. Now, my guest today is the fabulous David Tsonos. Did I get it right?
You did. Perfect.
Tsonos, the greatest name ever. Now, if you are not familiar with David, he is, of course, a fabulous stand up comedian, actor, writer, who is also from Canada.
That's right.
And that is what I would love for you to tell me about. Let's talk Canada.
Okay. You got
Which
it.
bit? Which bit are you from?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I was born and raised in Montreal, but
Okay.
then when I was like 21 or 22, somewhere around there, I moved to Vancouver. So way on the other side of the country,
Okay.
basically from East Coast to West Coast.
That's a long old that's more than an easy jet hop, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
that's a
it's
significant.
yeah, it's funny. People don't realize how big Canada is, and just to put that in perspective, from going from Montreal to Vancouver is past from London to Moscow.
That is quite some distance. I'll be honest. I still
Yeah,
don't
and you're
quite know
still in
how
the
far that is. How many time zones at least?
Oh my God. No, no, let me think. So one, two, it's 3 hours. It's 3 hours. So three time zones.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Decent.
So Vancouver is always 3 hours earlier than Montreal. That's right.
Okay. So what age were
I had to
you when
think
you
for a
went
second
from
there.
what
I
age
think
were you
I
when
want
you
to say
went from one to the other?
21 or 22, somewhere around there. I think
Okay.
21. Let's go with that. Yeah.
That's all right. I'm not going to check up. I'm not going to like call your folks and be like, no, he said.
Yeah.
I'll not have any lies on this podcast. And what prompted the move?
Well, what happened is that in Montreal at the time, so this would have been the early 90s, it was horrible for work. It was really tough to find a job.
Hmm.
It's very strange. It was a strange period of time
Hmm.
where a lot of companies were leaving Montreal and going to Toronto, and that's when Toronto built up a little bit more.
Hmm.
And there wasn't much going on. So Vancouver was like a hustling bud. There was also a film industry in Vancouver at the time. Um,
Okay.
X-Files was being shot there.
Know it well, of course.
Yeah, yeah. X-Files is like what put Canada on the map of TV shows because they've
Really?
had things filmed there before, but X-Files was the first like incredibly successful show to be filmed in
Okay.
Canada. Yeah,
Did not know that. That's cool.
yeah,
And
yeah.
were you doing acting at the time?
Yeah, I moved out there. It actually took me a few years because I want to say 22 now that I'm thinking about it. So it took me, I think about it, 21 sounds too young, 22. And then it took me a few years to kind of get situated and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And then after that, I started taking acting classes. Yeah.
Okay. Now here's how little I know, but I have a feeling they speak a bit of French in Montreal, don't they?
Bien sûr, mademoiselle.
But what about Vancouver? Also the same, or
No, you never hear French in Vancouver.
so? Have you lost your French, or?
Yeah, you know what's funny is that I think that if you pick me up and you put me into like a small town in France,
Uh huh.
I think in a matter of months it would all come back to me.
Okay.
But I find myself having to prepare. Like, so if I visit France or if I visit Brussels, or
Hmm.
even I've done a set a few times in French, I have to think like I want to go say this to the person,
Right. Okay.
right? And if the answer comes back not what I'm expecting, it takes me forever to translate the words. So
Right. Okay.
I have it, but it's not sharp.
Yeah. Sure. I guess if you don't use it so much.
Yeah.
So how much? Again, I know very little, but that's the fun of this.
Mhm.
How much were you speaking French versus English in Montreal?
So growing up, so like I grew up in the 70s and the 80s,
Hmm.
and there was where we live because we were on the West Island of Montreal. It was all English.
Okay.
So we didn't speak much French at all. My father barely, his entire life he lived in Montreal, he barely spoke any French.
Okay.
And then as you got older, if you wanted to move out from like the area that we lived in,
Hmm.
you pretty much would hear more and more French. And outside of Montreal, it's almost all French. But the city of Montreal, because it's a metropolitan city, it's a port city,
Hmm.
so it's going to have both languages. Like if you went there, anything to do with tourism, they're going to speak English.
Okay. Okay.
It might be broken English, but if you want to ask somebody on the street, their English might not be that great, or they might just walk away from you if you don't speak French. That could
I
happen.
mean, I have that effect on people generally. I did
Nice.
a little bit of GCSE French, and wow, I think that's carried me a long way. I
Yeah.
do remember we had to go on. We went on holiday to somewhere in French Polynesia, and I had a CD that was playing songs of like how to order and like how to
Yep.
ask for the menu. And the problem
Yeah.
I found is it helped me learn the words, but not how to just say them. I kind of had to serenade the server. So I'd be like, un table pour deux, la carte s'il vous plaît. I'm like, this is a bit weird.
I find it so hard. I mean, we'd have to ask somebody whose second language is English and French. But the basics of French is easy. But when
Mhm.
you start to get in with words that are either masculine or feminine, and
That's when
then
I lost it.
all the verbs, it's very difficult. It's very
Yeah.
difficult.
Although I think, the way things are changing in the world right now, maybe it's all about to get a lot easier. We'll just dump
Yeah.
all of them, the masculine and feminine, and just have one. And then I might
Yeah.
start learning French again because that's when I
There
was
you
like,
go.
you're giving me too many options to remember now.
Yeah.
This is getting too difficult. I read that you are from a family, you are the youngest of five boys.
I am. There you go.
Wow.
Big family.
And you're a comedian and you're the youngest. What are the
That's
what are the
right.
odds of that? I'm also the youngest. So
How many are you the youngest of? How many you got in yours?
there's a lot, man. I mean, if you count everybody on each side, there's been, multiple marriages and stuff. There's
Oh
like
wow. Okay.
7 2, I guess count everybody, youngest of 9.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a lot to keep up with. But when you were in Montreal, is that when you started doing stand up?
No. I didn't start till I moved out to Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I guess not much of a scene, or you just decided you wanted
No,
to give it a shot?
I wasn't it wasn't it's weird because a friend of mine so when I was like 17 years old, a friend of mine who was 18 started doing stand-up comedy. So I was exposed to it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like the late 80s
Mm.
and it was filthy, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay.
It was terrible. And I'm
Okay.
going to go on record saying that the comedy that I personally was exposed to
Yeah. Yeah.
in the 80s was all filth. It was like the year of Andrew Dice Clay. I mean, that's what I saw.
Okay.
I saw
Okay.
his influence whenever I went to a club or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very easy stuff. And it was just made to shock you. And it didn't impress me. And it wasn't until the mid 90s
Mm-hmm.
where I started to pay more attention to it, where there was a few more clever comedians. There
Okay.
was a diversity to it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't
Okay.
one comic after another, even though you and I have both gone to an open mic night where every comic has had a Facebook joke.
Oh, without a doubt. And Tinder. I mean, everything under the sun. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But yeah, I was actually kind of turned off to it when I first saw it. And then later on, and then once I was in acting school, it was my acting teacher who said that I should try to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what age were you when you did your first gig?
27.
20. I think I was too, actually. It's like a different kind of 27 club. When did you discover stand up and then slowly ruin your life?
Yeah.
So you were like acting, were
Yeah,
you doing anything
that's
else
true.
on the side? Yeah, isn't it? Were you doing anything else on the side?
I was always a bartender or a waiter. I always did those jobs.
Ah, okay. At any
That
of the clubs or just anywhere?
you mean at the comedy clubs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. I was always I was always doing that to pay the bills, and then finished acting school and got the agent, and then started doing stand-up comedy around then.
Uh-huh. And how has the acting scene of how did the acting scene, I should say, of Vancouver treat you?
It was horrible at first.
Really?
It's horrible because the acting scene, I don't even know what it would be like now,
Hmm.
but like everybody starts off in their 20s.
Okay.
So first of all, like a script has to have a part for someone in their 20s.
I see. Okay.
And then you're competing against all of these people who are going towards the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So as you get older or, in different category, there's less people and it's easier to get the parts. But back then it was like all cattle calls, as we call them, where you go in there and there's 40 people going for the same thing.
Oh boy. Yeah. So who's playing mum and dad, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
23-year-old.
Yeah. I did well independently. Like I did some independent short films and some independent films and like stuff that didn't pay, but it was a lot of fun to do. And when you finish acting school, they say, you know, you got to get your reel going. And you know what? I should have just stayed there. Just like, nope, I should just do it for fun and stuff like that. Cause it was a lot less pressure and you can play with the characters more and stuff. And yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot more fun to do it that way.
And then what prompted the move? So you left Canada and came to the United Kingdom.
I did. Canada is just beautiful, but stand-up comedy there is rough.
Okay.
First of all, right now, as I can tell you, like, you know, of course, during this, it's even harder, but besides, it's rough everywhere.
Yes.
Canadians love their summer. We love our summer.
Understandably. Yeah, because
Our winters,
I'm led to believe you have a harsh winter.
yeah, winters are so brutal. So you're talking May, June, July, August, where try to convince somebody not to have a backyard barbecue with their friends and come to a club and hear me talk about my cat.
Get it? 100%.
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Come to a dark club that may or may not have air conditioning.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like flyering at the Edinburgh Fringe on a hot day. Like,
Yeah,
forget it.
exactly.
People are going to be in the beer gardens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Try flying at the Edinburgh Fringe on a hot day and they don't know the fringe is going on. That's what it's
like. I know. Don't we miss it? Don't we miss it so much? So then during the warmer months then it's impossible. But then like in the colder months it was good?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to expand on that, but
Yeah, it was pretty good, but it's you know, it's the second biggest country in the world and has half the population of the UK. There's 33 million.
Okay.
So you're taking 33 million people, putting them in a way bigger country than the UK. And then that's what you have to deal with. Then, you know, cut down that 33 million to the people who go see comedy and stuff like that. So there's only so many clubs. And then after you play the same clubs, you just turn around and play the exact same thing. There's no growth. It comes a point where you stop. And it would be like being a comedian here in the UK. It's like if you're being a comedian in Cornwall, you know, you could stay in Cornwall, but you know, you got to go someplace bigger to do it.
Yeah, certainly to get the stage time. I'm a big fan of food. What would feed me? What would I like in both Montreal and Vancouver?
Okay, they're so different too. This is what's so funny. So every city has like so much different in their cuisine.
Okay.
And it was so funny. So Montreal is like cheap eats is what I'm used to because that's where I was like a kid and that's where I was a student.
Okay.
And even when we went back, like when you go back to where you're from and you bring like, so my wife's from Australia, right? She'd never been there before. So when somebody asks her about food there, she just looks at me like, what are they talking about? And in Montreal, they have this thing where the hot dogs come and they ask you if you want them all dressed.
Okay.
All right. So if you were with me, you'd say, yeah, I'll take a couple of hot dogs. They're like, would you like that all dressed? And what does that mean to you if I just said that?
Yeah, I'd give you a very blank look and be like, help.
Yeah. My wife thought they were speaking French. She thought, I heard the word all dressed, but maybe it's French for something.
I love it. And
so
and what does that mean?
It means mustard and coleslaw on top of the hot dogs.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. A little bit of crunch.
Like onions on ketchup and mustard, but okay, coleslaw.
Yeah. You go. That's how they do it. And then they have something called a smoked meat sandwich, which is like a pastrami sandwich in the States, but we call it smoked meat, which is just some thinly sliced meat that's been cured. That's what Montreal is famous for. And it's famous for a lot of bad food. And of course, you got to have the bagels. They have the famous Montreal wood stove bagels that they just pump out all day long. And you can tell that they're different from anything you buy, like just in the store. Just a bunch of stuff like that. And really, sorry, go ahead.
I was quite surprised because I thought with the French influence, I thought it would be sort of like a gastronomic, you know, wonder place.
Yeah, I mean, they have that as well. But I mean, it's so weird because I was there like during my university years and college years and stuff like that.
You were living on noodles.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I would know that stuff. I mean, there are fancy French restaurants, but I wouldn't even say they were really that would be your cuisine of choice. I mean, everyone knows poutine. That's where poutine comes from Montreal, right? So
Could you quickly explain poutine for anyone who might
you
not know
don't
what
know
that is?
poutine. They have it in Edinburgh in the trucks.
Look, they also
You
have the
take
pie maker and deep fried haggis. There's only so much stuff I can eat.
you take French fries
Yes.
or chips, as we say. You put
Yes.
on cheese, but it's a specific cheese. It's cheese curds, and then you put gravy on top of it
Oh, see, cheesy chips, I would call that, but this is a
with
different thing.
gravy. Cheesy
With,
chips with gravy.
I mean, our Canadians just northern. This sounds wonderful.
It does sound a little northern. You're right.
And what about Vancouver?
Vancouver's totally different. Vancouver has a huge Asian influence, so you'll get a lot of really good sushi, a lot of good Chinese food there,
Ah,
just a lot of that kind of influence. Even when you go to what you see to be like, shall we say, a white people restaurant,
yes.
there'll be like something Asian on the menu. You know what I mean? Like you'll go there and they'll have burgers and pizza, but you'll always have something Asian influence. And I miss it because it really had cheap sushi there. I really miss it for that because I find sushi just expensive everywhere I go except for Vancouver.
Do you know, I had the same experience when I went to New Zealand. I went out there,
Mm.
was meant to be 6 months, turned into 5.5 years because,
Oh my God.
plans. I know, I know. And I remember being like, wow, this sushi is really cheap compared to whatever I might have tried back home.
Yeah.
Um, and that was also the first time I ever tried wasabi because
Nice.
I did not know what it was. And I was like, oh, what's this? Take a chopstick, dip it in it, and straight in my mouth. Yeah, blew the back of my head off. So I was like, "That's not guacamole, is it? You don't get
No,
guacamole in sushi, do you?"
that'll clean up the sinuses, didn't it? Though at least.
Certainly did. Yeah, God, I didn't half know about it. But yeah, no, I missed that actually. They have a lot of
Hmm.
sort of similarities and stuff.
Hmm.
Right, we are getting to that point in the pod where I need to ask. Everybody loves a shout out. Would you like to shine a
Yes.
spotlight on a mate?
Yes, I'm going to send my shout out to my fellow Canadian, Dana Alexander. If you type in
Mhm.
Dana Alexander to YouTube, she has got lots of stuff on there, but currently they're doing like a little podcast about the drag race. So she's been doing that and she's been doing some cooking shows and all sorts of things, trying to keep herself busy during lockdown. So my shout out is to Dana Alexander. Nice, easy name for you to remember.
Very nice. I will of course be sure to check it out. So when you came over, how did you adjust weather-wise from going from Canada to the UK?
Well, this is very similar. London's very similar to Vancouver weather. It doesn't snow much in Vancouver.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
See, I know
it rains a
nothing,
lot
David.
as well there. Yeah.
I
This is
know
why you have it.
nothing.
This is why the podcast is
Yeah.
called.
Tell me about it because I know so painfully so little. Even when you mentioned that your wife is Australian, it popped through my mind like, what's that like going from like an Aussie any season to like the winter of Canada? I'm surprised she even
Yeah,
married you. How did you manage
yeah.
that?
She was excited the first time she saw it, but when we went back one time in wintertime, it was 30 below in Ottawa, and she just was not leaving the house.
I
That's how you
I
cope with it.
I actually can't get my head around how you cope when it's that cold. So, would you go out in those temperatures and do gigs?
Well, the thing is, yeah, I mean, you get to the gig, right? But when you get there, the gig is all it's heated inside, so you're fine. So it's
That's a
just a
plus.
matter of going from your door to your car when you're
Right.
outside,
Hmm.
right? That's all you
Yeah.
really have to be outside for. That's what people don't understand. We don't just sit in the snow all day.
No, no, but even the thought of opening the front door to that
Yeah,
kind of, especially with the wind or anything like
yeah,
that, I'm like, you know what?
yeah.
I never like to not turn up for a gig, but it's -30. That's nuts.
And one thing also you got to remember is the houses are built for it. So when you're home, you're warm.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about your thick brick insulated homes that they build there.
Uh-huh.
So inside, you're fine.
Ah,
Outside, you're
okay.
not.
Well, yeah, yeah, pretty much. So you're not going to like nip to the shop and get a pint of milk without the
No,
car.
but do you know what's something interesting about Canadians is that when it snows outside, everyone kind of like, oh my God, it's snowing, let's stay in. But that first snowfall, especially when you're a kid, we go outside.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're the only country, I think, that like, it's snowing. Let's go out into the snow.
Well, I mean, I think we like a bit of snow here. It's suddenly
Yeah.
it's snowing if it settles wherever we are. I think further sort of south we get a bit of a pathetic little sprinkling of snow every now and then, but definitely Midlands and North get a decent amount to get the old sledge out and maybe make a snowman.
Yeah.
What do
And there's
what do you
also,
do in Canada when you get a good dump of snow, the
well, a
first one?
sledge, as you say. We say sled, but when I was a kid, that was my favorite thing, to go sledding. We had a mountain close to our house. You just shoot down there and climb back up again. And you're all dressed for it. I was never a big skier, or even like for a Canadian too. I'm a terrible hockey enthusiast.
Okay. And is that
But
the hockey aspect or the skating side or both?
I'm not, I don't know. I just never, no, I never really got into it. It was just not something I was interested in.
Okay.
You know what it is? The practices, when you're a kid, the practices are probably about, like, I'm not even joking, like 6 or 7 a.m. on a weekend.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Why so early?
Well, because it's so funny too, because that's when you're really young, which is like the worst time to do it, right? But basically, like, so the skating rink has ice times.
Okay.
And I guess the games are going to be at like noon to 12 o'clock at night. So if you're going like as a child, the practices have to be like really early in the morning, because that's when the ice is available.
Wow.
I guess. I don't know. It's a good question. But yeah, my mother used to drive me in like her bathrobe and slippers and drop me off, and then bye.
She'd
Go
be like,
back to bed.
you can quit at any time. I won't think bad of you.
Yeah.
This is not for you.
Yeah.
And
drop me off at hockey and go back to bed. Is what she used to do.
Fair enough too. Right. Do let us know. What are you up to? Where can we stalk you? Give us some details.
Well, things are coming back right now, which is fantastic. So you can always go to my website at www.davidtsonos.com. Also on Twitter, I'm going to try to be a more Twitter person. My Twitter's easy to remember. It's Funny Canuck. So Canuck is a slang for a Canadian, but it's also Can UK, right? CAN UK. So Canadian in UK. Funny Canadian in UK. Look at that.
Good to know, because for a moment there I was like, is there two N's in Canuck?
No.
But not.
There is. But someone else had that one, actually.
There we go. Fair enough. And
and hasn't used it since 2016. Thank you very much for hogging the good one.
That just hurts, doesn't it? You're like, really? Come on. You gotta give up the license if you know. Do you know, one of my fondest memories of doing shows with you, and I was thinking about this recently, you ran a show in the Edinburgh Fringe called the Drunk.
Yes, that's right.
Show.
Yeah, that's right.
That is an absolute riot. I loved it. That was so much fun, because I looked at the name. I'm like, Drunk and Heckle. Okay, this is going to be a bear pit, but it wasn't actually. They were like quite nice.
No, I made it civilized. It's so funny, but you did it smart, because you came and watched one first, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you came and watched it, and you're like, oh, I want to do this. That's a smart way of doing it, because I think the name does throw people off, and I get in a bit of trouble because comedians are like, your show is allowing them to heckle, which, we don't want them to do that. And I said, yeah, I want the people who want to heckle to come to this one so they don't go to your shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was surprised by how nice they were, actually.
Yeah.
I was expecting just mayhem and chairs and bottles and stuff to be thrown. I was like, this is the most civilized drunk and heckle show I've ever seen.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar, we have the audience are given paddles. So if you want to heckle, you actually have to raise your paddle, which just brings a sense of order to chaos, really.
If you want to heckle, put your hand up. We'll give you a paddle, like you're going to vote, like you're at an auction. You'd like to bid on your own heckle.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is that every now and then, one person will scream something out with a paddle, and then somebody in the audience will be like, "Hey, man, you need a paddle to do that. Like, you're breaking the rules."
And you've got like heckle marshals at the gig who were like, no, you have to put your paddle up. Have you tried to revive it in an online format, or
no? No, it just wouldn't work online. And also,
what I like about Zoom.
Yeah, what I like about that show is that in case something is said that crosses the line, it's not going to be, everyone forgets about it. What happens in that room stays in that room, right?
Yeah. No.
You could imagine You can
Well,
imagine something said if, taken out of context or played on the internet that would just take off and, get somebody in trouble.
yeah. But not at your lovely drunken heckle show, which I so look forward to doing again at some point,
I know.
whenever whenever
Yeah.
we may be back out and doing live stuff again. Anything else you want to plug before we depart?
Nope. I think that's it. I think when are we airing this episode?
Oh, well, now that's putting a time pressure on me that I actually release it on time, but
Yeah, because
hopefully,
I was gonna plug my show for the 21st of May, but will this air before that?
yeah.
Yeah. You
Let's
just
say
checked the
yeah.
date? Is that what you just did?
I did. Yeah, I told you. I know nothing, David. This is why I'm always like, yeah, that's 10 days from now. We're good. Go on, plug
Yeah.
away.
So the 21st of May, I will be at the Camden Comedy Club, and it's called the Rat Pack Show, and I will be on that one on the 21st of May.
The Rat Pack. Will you be all suited?
I will be suited. Not everyone is. Not everyone takes that Rat Pack as serious as I do.
That's sad. That's sad. I thought that was the whole thing. You got to wear the get-up to be
Mhm.
part of the Rat Pack.
Yep, I agree.
Wow. I love that you're representing David Tsonos. I gotta stop saying your name like an idiot. Can you please pronounce it definitively so we all know?
Tsonos, you got it.
Tsonos.
David Tsonos, yeah.
Tsonos. There we go. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Me as well. Not a
And I look
problem.
forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers.